Yo, it's Friday, December the 19th. Good Friday here on the DFO DFS Hockey Report. I'm your host, Brock Seguin. As always, we got Zach Laing with us as well. Zach, how you doing on this Friday afternoon, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, fired up for the slate tonight. Little fun 5-gamer. Got the Oilers Nation staff work Christmas party this evening. So looking forward to getting a little bit banged up later tonight. And then my Chicago Bears tomorrow night, going to beat the Green Bay Packers. Pretty excited for these couple of days here. That's for sure.
I obviously came to Edmonton a week or two too early. I should have stuck around for the work Christmas party. Sounds like it'll be a hoot. But yeah, nice looking 5-game slate tonight. We obviously had our feelings about last night's slate and the day before we had our feelings about that slate, and I think they both went very much like we thought they would, right? Not very high event, a lot of low event games, and maybe tonight we get a little bit of that as well. So let's break it down. Morgan says, I'm American. Banged up doesn't mean down here what it means up there, apparently. Probably true. Yeah. Let's get into tonight's starting goalies. We've got Sergei Bobrovsky getting the start for the Florida Panthers. It's most likely going to be Brandon Busey for the Carolina Hurricanes. We've got the New York Islanders going with Ilya Sorokin. It's going to be Thatcher Demko for the Vancouver Canucks. Scott Wedgwood goes for the Colorado Avalanche. Projected to see Connor Hellebuck for the Winnipeg Jets. Krovo Melka likely to start for the Utah Mammoth. Jacob Markstrom projected to get the start for the New Jersey Devils. It'll be Lucas Dostal for the Anaheim Ducks. Casey DeSmith projected to get the start in the second half of a back-to-back on for the Dallas Stars. Oh, man. Apparently the Americans don't say get bagged up as often as we do. But anyways, here we go. The Florida Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes are up first. Zach, would you like game number 1 or game number 2?
I'll take game number 2 today.
All right. The Florida Panthers host the Carolina Hurricanes. They are plus 117 home favorites in this one. The Hurricanes with a 3.1 implied total. The Hurricanes, very, very good 5v5 hockey team, as we've grown accustomed to see. Zach, we've talked about this team a lot this year in terms of, the 5v5 defensive metrics weren't quite exactly where we were used to seeing them. They've certainly come back in a big way. Getting Jacob Slavin back too is only going to help the matter. So one of the best 5v5 teams in the NHL going up against a Florida Panthers team still trying to kind of find their way at 5v5. So it should be a pretty hefty advantage at 5v5 for the Hurricanes this evening. Where is my little sort thing? All right, I'll figure that out here in a moment. But we've got the matchups first, I guess. The Panthers like to match up. You're going to see a lot of Lundell against Sebastian Aho. You're going to see a lot of the Bennett line against the second line. And then the fourth, the third line will do their thing as well. One of the higher event matchups of the slate, I believe, the second highest projected pace this evening. So it should be a fun one for sure. In terms of the stats for these teams, pretty decent offensively for the Florida Panthers. Problem is they go up against an absolute juggernaut of a defensive team that is the Carolina Hurricanes. So I think the one line that I've been playing a lot of is Florida 2. I think that's the one line that I would probably feel pretty comfortable getting back to tonight. But with Brandon Busey getting the start, he's really been the best goalie for the Carolina Hurricanes. The matchups are really quite bad for Florida this evening. So I don't think I'm going to get to a ton of the Panthers. I think my interest is coming in on the first and second line of the Carolina Hurricanes. The underlying metrics continue to be pretty good for them. The matchups obviously pretty good. Not great defensive numbers here for the Panthers top 6. So pretty good spot here for the Hurricanes outside of the power play matchup. So yeah, on a night where it looks once again like there's probably not going to be a ton of scoring, a couple potentially high event games, I think Hurricanes are high event enough here at 5v5 that they make some sense. So Zach, while I fix up the sort button here, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I got some interest in this one. Again, this is one that's got a fairly high pace score to it here tonight. So I think, Florida 2 is a solid option. They're drawing pretty low ownership. I mean, this game as a whole really isn't seeing a whole lot of ownership. Florida 1 drawing the most of it in this game, 7.7% for their line. Florida 2, 6%. These Carolina pieces aren't drawn much either. I think I feel a little bit better about playing this Carolina side than I do the Florida side tonight. Brandon Busey has been just tremendous this season. I think he's got wins in 11 of 12 starts or something absolutely ridiculous. He has been stunningly good this season. Quality starts in 67% of them this year. He's been really good, man. And again, with the way that this team is playing, defensively really starting to clean things up here. I think it's going to be tough sledding here for this Florida Panthers team. This is a group that hasn't had a ton of success going up against the Hurricanes individually. Brad Marchand leads in terms of points per game for that top six with 0.8 points per game. Carter Verhaeghe close behind 0.7. And then that top line has all had some struggles throughout their career. So I think I'm okay sprinkling, 5% here on this Florida Panthers top six. A little bit of that top line, a little bit of the second line, a little more interest in getting a bit over the field on this Carolina Hurricanes side of things. I mean, Sergei Bobrovsky, been a great goaltender for a long time, but regular season Bob is in full display this year. 887 save percentage, 0.4 goals saved above expected on the year. He's had quality starts in 70% of his starts, but still had some struggles along the way. So I don't think I'm going to get a ton of ownership on this game, get a little bit over the field on Carolina, and pretty much meet the field in terms of the ownership on the Panthers here.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the same thing for me again tonight, as it was the other night. Where I felt like Carolina 2 probably was in a better spot, and I was very heavy on Carolina 2 and pretty light on Carolina 1, and it was working for the most part. Then obviously the Aho empty net goal kind of swung things the other way, and I feel pretty similar about that again tonight. They draw better matchup there, they grade out better, they are significantly cheaper, and I like going back to Carolina 2 a lot here tonight. I think it's a really good line, not seeing much ownership. Again, like I'll probably get to a little bit, maybe like 5% of Carolina 1, but I think that Carolina 2 is probably my leverage spot in this game, and then maybe sprinkle in a little bit of Florida 2 as well. But I just think it's a really tough matchup for the Panthers. So most of my interest in this game, yet again, probably coming through the value that is Carolina 2. Do you want to break down the Islanders and the Canucks, which is going to have a lot of ownership tonight?
Yeah, this is a fascinating one. Islanders hosting the Canucks here tonight, minus 132 on the money line. The Islanders are 3.0 implied total for them, 2.6 for the Canucks. Two teams with terrible offenses, one team with a bad defense, one team with a good defense. This feels like a bit of a gross game here. That being said, there's quite a bit of ownership coming in on this game here when we look at the line stacks. Vancouver won coming in as the best line to target here in this game. They are 7th overall on the charts. Marco Rossi, Connor Garland, and Brock Besser projected for about 10% ownership here tonight. The Islanders top line very close behind at 8th overall. Second best line to target here. They are the chalk tonight. 15% ownership coming in on this Islanders top line. It feels a little bit gross, but in one sense of the term, it's kind of easy to see why when you dig into it a little bit. First and foremost, the price tag is just delicious. $13,000 for this top line is a really nice price tag. They're projected to play 30% of the time on ice tonight. And the matchups here in this game, beyond a bit of a weaker pace score here, the matchups are really solid on both sides of the rink. I think I've got a little bit more interest in this Islanders side of things here than I do on this Canucks side. Vancouver's top six all have solid matchups. The top six for the Islanders, pretty solid matchups as well. I think the one caveat here is when you look at the line stats, it is just disgusting across the board offensively. These are two teams that have really had offensive issues throughout the course of the season here. New York 1 grading out as the best offensive line here for the Islanders side of things. Vancouver 2, the best for the Canucks side of things. It feels like a bit of a grosser, lower scoring game. I think from an overall perspective, I do think the Islanders top line is kind of the one to target in this game. The reason for that, Matt Barzal. He has had tremendous success against the Canucks in his career. 11 games played, 3 goals, and 18 points. No Bo Horvat there, obviously, so he's up on that top line right now. I think he's a solid play tonight. He's drawn a lot of ownership, like 24% at $5,600, and it makes sense. I'm probably going to be meeting the field on this Islanders top line here tonight. Get some Jonathan Drouin in the mix, who's also had success, 5 goals and 17 points in 22 games played. Emil Heineman been providing a solid floor, not much of a ceiling as of late, though. This second line feels a little bit thinner to me. I've got some interest in Anders Lee, another guy who's had success, 6 goals, 15 points in 21 games played. I'll get a little bit of ownership on this second line as well, largely around Anders Lee. Probably go the mini stack route a little bit more on that second line. In terms of the Canucks, I think I can get there a little bit on this top line. The one nice thing about Besser and Garland is they do have solid shot volume. That is, stayed true here throughout the course of the season. Obviously, Marco Rossi still getting his feet wet with his new team. The second line, I think, offers an interesting little mini stack option as well. Kiefer Sherwood has had a solid season this year. He's cooled off offensively here as of late for sure, but he's still shooting 20%, or sorry, he is shooting just 8% over his last 20 games played here, shooting like 17.5%, 18% on the season as a whole, but still solid volume from him. Evander Kane, a guy who definitely can shoot the puck here as well. So I don't hate the option of going that route. Max Sasson, take him or leave him at $2,500. I don't really think you need to get there a whole lot, but he's managed to score some kind of random goals throughout the course of the season here. So that's kind of the way that I'm looking at this one here tonight. I'm going to definitely be meeting the field on this Islanders top line, get a little bit of ownership on the second line. I don't feel as great about the Canucks side of things here. But in the same breath, I also think with it just being a little 5-gamer here, in a 20 max, I'm fine throwing a little bit of ownership the Canucks way. How are you feeling here about this game tonight? Vancouver, as you pull up here, number 1 power play matchup on the slate.
Yeah, so, okay, just really quickly, Casey DeSmith will start in Anaheim, Adam Ernie in, Colin Blackwell. Oh, don't care about that, but yeah, DeSmith confirmed to get the start. Thank you, Beebs. Yeah, so the power play is what makes this a little bit interesting, but again, the Islanders have been a funky team in terms of like where they grade out in terms of their actual penalty kill and what they give up defensively versus what their actual kill percentage is. Drastically different. So I do kind of take this rating number 1 overall here with a slight grain of salt here with the Canucks. I want to have interest in that top line. Granted, it is a small sample size of just 2 games, but literally nothing is happening while Marco Rossi is on the ice right now in his 2 games with the Canucks. 1.17 expected goals for per 60, 1.65 expected goals against. Pretty low event stuff. The Canucks, I do worry, aren't going to be able to generate much offense in this one. So I'm probably not playing a lot of Vancouver. I don't mind the look of this top line, but I don't think I'll get there tonight. I do, however, have some interest in the Islanders top line. Barzal and Heineman together. Over 108 minutes together this season, 3.3 expected goals for per 60, 13 high danger chances. They've looked solid together. They had a nice game against the Red Wings. They gave the Red Wings, Red Wings had their hands full with that top line. The rest of the team kind of got beat up by the Red Wings, but this top line was giving them fits all night. I do think that they could certainly get there tonight. The chalk is massive, but the price tag is certainly the reason why. And I think it's very easy to click on Matt Barzal, who without Bo Horvat, we mentioned it the other day, is just playing an outrageous amount of minutes. Basically half of the hockey game. He saw another 22 minutes the other night. So in his last 3 games, he's played 23-48, 24-58, and 22-26. So playing a lot of hockey, on average 24 and 3/4 minutes there. So yeah, I think I can get to the Islanders, but yeah, this game as a whole feels just very low event. And yeah, I just don't think life without Quinn Hughes is going to go well for this Canucks offense, so I'll probably stay away. Plus, Sorokin's been pretty damn good. So another reason to kind of look the other way when talking about the Islanders tonight. The Avalanche are on tonight's slate, minus 248 home favorites against the Jets. Just seems just insane. Similar to like the Maple Leafs yesterday, right? Like it's like, when has the opposing goalie playing the Maple Leafs ever been the most expensive goalie of the slate? It didn't matter. Like, he's posted a shutout. Like, of course he did. The Leafs offense is terrible. Same way I feel about these Winnipeg Jets, man. Like, just getting shut out against the Blues the other night. They are a one-line team through and through. There is just, doesn't matter in your second, third, fourth line. There is nothing happening offensively from those 3 lines. So they need that top line to carry them. The top line grades out okay again tonight, but this matchup is brutal. I really like the Avs tonight. No surprise there. I think I'll be heavy on the Avs yet again. The top line, outrageously expensive. No surprise there. The second line, however, much cheaper at $13,600. They've all played extremely well. I've been playing them a lot. I'm going to continue to do so tonight. I will be north of the field if they come in at 11%. Paying up for Colorado 1 in this matchup feels a little bit less good, just because they are still $22,000 and Connor Hellebuck is still very, very talented. But McKinnon's just unbelievable. I think he'll get there. It's been a little wishy-washy for like Lehkonen and Netchas as of late. Solid numbers, but at their price tags, you need a lot, right? Like if you're going to full stack that line, you need some return. So a lot of one-offy McKinnon for me, I think similar to how the field is doing it tonight. I will play some full stacks for sure. They could just have absolutely nuke games. But yeah, the second line has been just tremendous. Their underlying metrics are phenomenal. And at 13,600, they are easily the best value option on the slate. They grade out 5th overall. For the Jets, like, yeah, like they're the same price as Colorado won in a significantly worse matchup, right? Like Colorado grades out 14th. The power play penalty kills a little bit better. Like the power play matchup for the Jets tonight is nothing to write home about. So I have a little bit more difficult time paying up for this line tonight. And so does the field. 5%. I think that's fair. I just don't see this being a great spot for this line. They've been good, but I can't imagine that they generate a whole lot. Nobody's really been able to generate a whole lot against the Avs this year, but they will see about 50% of their ice time against Colorado 1, who don't have the best defensive metrics. So there is an avenue for sure. It's the only line that's going to score. So if you're going to play the Jets, it's probably going to have to be Winnipeg 1 tonight because the rest of the team does absolutely nothing. So I think they're kind of an interesting get different spot tonight for sure. They're not going to draw a lot of ownership at that price tag in this matchup. So I think they're an interesting get different spot. They can certainly have big games against anybody. So what are your thoughts here on Winnipeg 1? Because like you don't usually get them at such low ownership, especially on a 5-game slate.
Yeah, you don't. I think I'm okay getting there a little bit on this top line for the Jets, but man, it feels tough.
For sure.
Like you look at the matchups here tonight, they're going to see a lot of their ice time against the McKinnon line, like 50% of it, 26% going up against Colorado too. Like it is going to be tough for them to break through here. They're going to need to rely on the power play, much like they usually do. But the same breath, like Colorado, solid penalty kill percentage, 85.3%, even if they are giving up a fair amount of quality there. So I don't mind the idea of paying up a little bit here to get a bit different on Winnipeg 1. But in the same breath, like, it's really difficult. Like it's really easy to see a world where Colorado just gets absolutely caved in, or sorry, Winnipeg gets absolutely caved in tonight, and Winnipeg 1 does absolutely nothing. I love the Colorado Avalanche here tonight. I'm going to say a little prayer for Connor Hellebuck because he is about to get absolutely shelled tonight. But at $7,200, I think he's an interesting, chalk busting potential there. His numbers against Colorado in his career have been really good. 27 games played, 16 wins, 5 shutouts, 2.69 goals against average, and 918 save percentage. But man, this Colorado team is just a different animal this year. And having, 2 lines that can just come at you in waves the way that they do, it's going to be tough sledding here for Winnipeg tonight for sure. So a lot of interest in Colorado. I'm definitely going to be over the field on them. I love this top line. I love this second line. I don't hate the idea of kind of going with onslaught options here too. Like, stacking Colorado 1 and Colorado 2 through minis as well is something that's going to be super viable here on this slate tonight, just given the pricing for a lot of these other spots. So yeah, I'm going to be quite heavy here on Colorado and probably hedge some of that with some Hellebuck too and get a bit over the field there because, if it's a game where, there's certainly a possibility where it's like, a 3-0 or a 3-1 win for Colorado and Hellebuck has to make like 40 saves and only gives up 2 or 3 goals against. Like at $7,200, certainly has a route to being optimal here in this game tonight. So I think that's kind of the way that I'm attacking this. Little sprinkle on Winnipeg 1, hammering Colorado and getting a good amount of Hellebuck as well.
Yeah, I think the Jets were obviously a better defensive team a season ago than they were this year. They have yet to meet these two teams this season, but these games were very low scoring last year outside of one game where Winnipeg lost 5-2. But outside of that, they had a 1-0 win, a 3-0 win, and a 3-2 win last season. Again, 2 totally different teams, it seems, this year, but it is worth mentioning that these games haven't been crazy high scoring, and the Jets have had kind of the better of the matchup, at least last season. Utah and New Jersey, take it away, Zach.
Yeah, we've got the Utah Mammoth hosting the New Jersey Devils tonight, -134 favorites. The Mammoth are 3.1 implied total for them, 2.7 for the Devils. Solid offense, solid defense for the Mammoth. Not so great offense, not so great defense for the New Jersey Devils tonight. Taking a look at the line stacks here in this game tonight, no major surprise. Utah 1 grading out as the best line to target in this game, 4th overall on the charts. New Jersey 1 coming in 6th best on the slate as well. Both lines drawing right around 10% ownership here tonight on this slate. Utah 2 coming in 16th, New Jersey 2 coming in at 17th. Again, you look at the pricing here, starting to see it creep up a little bit on Utah 1, especially for for a guy, JJ Peterka, who has been just so good as of late. His price, it feels like, has really kind of skyrocketed in the last, week or two here since getting bumped up to that top line. I don't know how much interest I have in this game as a whole. When you look at the matchups, it's brutal across the board here. Utah 2 drawing the best matchup in this game, which is still sub 50%. It's going to be kind of a lower event game, I have the feeling of here tonight. This is a Utah team who has had some struggles as of late. They're not playing great hockey, 5-5 in their last 10. But in the same breath, when you look at the Devils, like, they have really struggled without Jack Hughes, 3-7 in their last 10 games played. I've talked about it before. I'll talk about it again. Jacob Markstrom really having a tough year this season here. So I like the idea of kind of really attacking through the Utah Mammoth here tonight. I'll be meeting the field on this top line, getting a little bit over the field on this second line. And me, I like my Utah 3. I'll sprinkle in a little, Daniil Boot and Michael Carconi as well. Carconi's still been a solid play here as of late, and Boot having solid shot volume, 9.9 shots on goal per hour so far this season. Still waiting for that elusive first goal. Maybe it comes here tonight, but I don't mind the idea of attacking Utah here. On this Devil side of things, pretty much top line or bust, I think, right? I mean, these three guys together have been providing some solid floor as of late. Still waiting for that offense to kind of really break through for a ceiling game. Certainly has the possibility to do so here tonight. The Mammoth giving up pretty much 3 goals against per hour at 5-on-5 over their last 10 games played. Goaltending has been an issue for them, so I don't mind the idea of getting some ownership here, meeting the field on this Devils top line as well. No real power play advantage to speak of here in this game tonight. Both teams grading out towards the bottom of the rankings there. So basically anything you're looking for here is coming through that 5-on-5 play. How are you kind of feeling about this one? Do you feel any different than I do?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I'm somewhat similar. Like, I don't have a lot of confidence in the Devils offense right now. No Timo Meier, no Jack Hughes. So yeah, I do have some questions there. I might get to a little bit of this top line, but no, I'm more interested in the Utah side of things. I don't necessarily think for sure that's going to be Jacob Markstrom either. Really nice performance from Jake Allen the other night. Could be him again. The Devils, for the most part, the offense has been not great. They've been okay defensively, but not great. Utah, it's just a very good 5v5 team that plays somewhat low event. So, these not, 7th best 5v5 expected goals for. I think that's the team that I want to target, and I think they can have success at 5v5. And as bad as the power play has been, at least the matchup's really good tonight. It's the Devils PK that's been atrocious. Obviously, getting somebody like Brett Pesce back is going to help. But yeah, I think Utah is the side of the game that I want to be on here. I think there's a lot of decent options, but only one really good option, and that's full stacking this top line at $19,000. I'll probably come in north of the field here. I still don't mind getting to some of the depth pieces, as you mentioned. Lawson Krause, Dylan Gunther, mini stack. Dylan Gunther one-offs are always fine. I really think that his price tag at $6,600 is good. And then, yeah, the Boot and Carconi are always a really nice, cheap value option tonight. In terms of the matchup, it's not going to be great for them, but I think at that price tag, with the volume that you get and kind of the limited minutes they play, they are always kind of a worthwhile click. And if you're going to, pay up and hammer Colorado or some of these other more expensive lines, you're going to need to find some value. And I think Utah 3 has done a pretty good job providing that. And I'll go back to them here as well. It is worth mentioning, like, the New Jersey 2 not playing or not grading out very well, but like Connor Brown, with all the injuries, has seen a drastic increase in usage. We know that he's going to play a ton. Cody Glass has been pretty good as of late as well. So I think that second line does provide a little bit of value as well. It's just I don't love the matchup overall, but I think if we're going to talk about Utah 3, you need to mention New Jersey 2 a little bit. Connor Brown's last 4 games, 19-20, 17-10, 18-03, and then 20 and a half minutes in his last game in the shootout loss, or shootout win, to the Vegas Golden Knights. So, yeah, again, I don't think Cody Glass and Connor Brown are super high upside plays, but at their price tag, they're going to play a lot more ice time than Daniil Boot and Michael Carconi are this evening. So I think they're an okay show if you're taking a look for a little bit of value up front tonight. Any final thoughts before we get to the final game of the evening?
No, it's moving along.
Okay, so we've got a couple of changes here, or at least one change for the Ducks. Olin Zellweger out of the blue line no major impact, but it could lead to some power play time for either Pavel Mitnikov or Jacob Trouba. They've both played sparingly on the power play this year. Not exactly sure which one it will be, but both obviously have been pretty good value options and will be again tonight. Dallas, still not a great 5v5 club, but they played pretty well last night, obviously against a bad Sharks team. But this is a Ducks team that cannot defend, so I think there's the possibility that Dallas has an okay 5v5 night tonight. Their second line and their top line grade out 3rd and 9th overall, both drawing a considerable amount of ownership, as you might imagine they would. Obviously, with Matt Duchene on that top line, you got to feel a little bit better about the offense. Versus a guy like Sam Steele, and him just being $3,600 certainly helps keep that price tag down. I really like that top line tonight. I think the second line's firmly in play as well. The power play doesn't draw the greatest matchup overall, 19th best in terms of defending, but they have only killed 76% of their power plays, penalty kills, So nice matchup again for the Stars tonight on the power plays. They're bread and butter right now. I am gonna go back to the well here on Dallas for sure. I think the ownership is what it is. It's fairly high. It's not egregiously high on a 5-game slate. We've talked about some other high-owned spots tonight that I don't like. So this feels like a good spot to get over the field on to me. Really like Dallas. Really like the matchup with the Ducks. The Ducks, I think, are a little tricky. They've obviously had their moments. But the way the lineup shakes out right now, like with Kreider, McTavish, Seneca, I think they're cheap enough to consider, but I don't love them in this matchup. Gauthier, Carlson, mini stack is probably my preferred route. Although Granlund's been pretty solid at just $3,800. I think he's good value. This third line with Granlund and Terry provides a little bit of value. So I just think it's so hard to figure out exactly which line to target. The top line grades out the best, so that's going to be, or in terms of the matchup, so that's going to be Carlson and Gauthier. If that wants to be your tiebreaker, I think that's a fine way to go. The second line for Dallas draws the better matchup versus Dallas one. So if you want to go to that second line, Robertson and Hintz, I think that is a fine option as well. But either way, I think both those top two lines for the Stars are going to find success, both at 5v5, just given how bad the Ducks are defensively, and on the power play, just given how dominant that power play continues to be. And we talked about it yesterday. This is not an expensive stack. Like, Johnston was $6,700 yesterday. He's $6,300 today. I think Rampton was $7,700 yesterday. He's $7,300 today. Rupe Hintz is down to $53. The only person that went up yesterday was Jason Robertson, went up $400. It's not expensive to get to Dallas. It's not as expensive as it should be. So, I'm in here on Dallas, but it's just like they're always a little wishy-washy because their 5v5 metrics are so bad. But this is a 5v5 matchup that I think they can certainly take advantage of. I think the one thing that also kind of hamstrings the Ducks night, power play is really bad. Ducks PK is really good. So I'm mostly in on Anaheim or on Dallas in this one. I don't have a ton of interest in the Ducks, and they're drawing a lot of ownership tonight, or at least across the board. So I play a lot of Casey DeSmith. I think he's one of the most underrated and underappreciated goalies in the league. I think at kind of modest ownership, modest price tag, I like getting to Casey DeSmith tonight to bust some of that Dallas chalk. I don't know if you could necessarily call it chalk, but I mean, all three lines are seeing like 10% ownership, so it's pretty significant.
Yeah, absolutely. The ownership on Anaheim, specifically Anaheim 3, is a little bit weird to me. I mean, 11% ownership, them being the highest owned line in this game, or from the Duck side at least, feels a little bit weird to me. I think it's pretty easy to come in under the field on that third line. I really don't have a whole lot of interest in playing them. I think maybe the reason that ownership is coming their way is just with Granlund and Troy Terry being up on that top power play unit. But in the same breath, like, this power play has struggled, and it's continued to do so this season. So I'm good meeting the field on Anaheim 1 and 2 tonight. I'll be definitely getting some ownership on those guys. And again, same thing on the Dallas side of things. I mean, I love the look of this top six here tonight. These two teams met back in early November, a 7-5 win for the Anaheim Ducks. That was with Jake Ottinger between the pipes. I mean, Anaheim in that game, Leo Carlson, Cutter Gauthier, Alex Killorn, Chris Kreider, Seneke, Troy Terry all had 2 points that night. On the Dallas side of things, Miro Heiskanen 4 assists, Wyatt Johnson 2 goals and an assist, Rantanen a goal and 3 points, Robertson a couple of assists. This kind of has that same sort of a feel to me here tonight. So I have no problem meeting the field here on this ownership tonight. I kind of like the look of this game, to say the very least.
Yeah, I remember that game. We were very heavy on I think both teams that night, and it went as you might expect it would. All right, let's get to the defensemen and the goalies. Let's sort by value here. Brett Pesce grades out extremely well at $3,000. Playing 23 minutes tonight, you can see why. Sam Malinsky continues to grade out well. Sam Girard is a nice value on the blue line for the Avs too, wherever he may be. I also really like Devon Taves, $3,700. Does an absolute ton out there. Plays big minutes, offers a lot in terms of just playing with Colorado 1 and just potentially, chipping in a few assists. I don't mind Brent Burns. I don't mind Phil Peronic tonight. Sam Malinsky. Josh Manson's played well. Like all those Avs defensemen are really quite cheap tonight. Phil Peronic's right here as well. Grades out pretty nicely. Tony DeAngelo grades out nicely at 2,900. Anybody else that I didn't mention that you really like?
Sean Dursey looks like another solid play here tonight. Jacob Troubat, $4,200. I can get behind him. Luke Hughes, obviously some correlation there on the top power play unit. Ryan Pullock at $4,100 looks like a solid play as well. But I think he covered it off for the most part there. Certainly some interesting options here on this slate tonight. I mean, Brett Pesce looks like an absolute slam play tonight. Same with Malinsky. Looks to be in another really good spot for him here as well. So, some interesting options on the blue line tonight. I think you got a nice blend of, some pay up options with guys like Schaefer, McCarr, Lacombe, and you got some solid pay downs here on this slate as well. You liking some of these Florida blue liners tonight?
Yeah. I always like anybody that blocks shots going up against the Carolina Hurricanes. So Aaron Ekblad, $3,300, I think makes a lot of sense. Grades out for 1.6 blocks, but I think is certainly live to hit that block bonus tonight. He's been really, really solid, providing great floor. At $3,300 as of late. Let's get to the goalies. We've got Scott Wedgwood grading out as the number one goalie in terms of projections tonight, highest implied win percentage by a mile. At 71%. Totally fine with playing a Colorado goalie. Usually they will win the hockey game. Karel Vejmelka has been playing splendidly as of late. This is a New Jersey team that cannot score. I like Karel Vejmelka tonight. I wish he was a little cheaper, but it's fine. It's $8,100. Sorokin, almost the exact same situation. I do have a lot of just volume concerns there. Project for 27 saves, but this is a Vancouver team that's not getting much on net as of late. So I think that, there's a lot of volume concern there with Sorokin. Not volume concerned with Sergei Bobrovsky. There is win equity concern there, but certainly a guy that's going to see a lot of shots. I don't mind clicking on Bobrovsky, even though he hasn't been great this year. If you're looking, him and Hellebuck feel like those kind of super high volume GPP plays tonight that could potentially steal a win. It's not out of the question that Florida can win that hockey game. So I don't mind Bobrovsky at $7,600 as a bit of a shot in the dark. But I also like Busey because he just does not lose hockey games. So there's that. I mentioned my affinity for Casey DeSmith as well. I'm interested there. The only guys I probably won't play a ton tonight, Jacob Markstrom, not going to see a ton of volume, I don't think. He might see an okay amount of volume. I don't really care about Thatcher Demko. I just don't think the Canucks can win the hockey game. They just are not a good hockey club anymore, and I'm not a big fan of Lucas Dostal tonight. So going to be a pretty wide mix for me. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you here tonight. I mean, I'm probably going to be fairly spread out in my ownership here. Talked about Hellebuck as a potential chalk busting option there tonight. I think he's okay at $7,200. Some of these more expensive guys, I think Scott Wedgwood's a solid play at $8,200. Probably going to get some Bobrovsky, some Brandon Busey rather. I think he's a solid play too. Little Thatcher Demko, I don't hate that idea there. The one thing about Sorokin, his numbers against Vancouver in his career have been terrible. 6 games played, just 2 wins, 405 goals against average, and an $880 save percentage. Granted, that is in the Quinn Hughes era Vancouver Canucks. So we're still trying to figure out what this Canucks team looks like. But as we talked about earlier, it's probably not going to be great. So
yeah, I was gonna say, are we? I think just bad.
Yeah, I think just bad. I think that's a good way to put it. I think Sorokin's an okay play, but a little bit of a concern there if the Canucks can shoot 25% tonight or something like that.
Yeah, if they shoot 25% on 15 shots on goal, he's going to have a tough evening. Let's get to tonight's hat trick pick challenge. If you want to participate in tonight's hat trick pick challenge, all you got to do is drop your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube. If your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. If a player scores a hat trick that nobody picked, we'll raffle it off to anybody that submitted a pick. Zach, who do you want tonight?
I'm going to go a little bit off the board here. Let's go Dylan Guenther.
Oh, that is quite off the board. Give me Jason Robertson. That's going to do it for this edition and another week of the DFO DFS Hockey Report. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've had some issues with the head-to-head. That will be returning on Monday. We are going to get that going again on Monday. And shout out to our friends at RotoGrinders for providing projected ownership for today's show. If you want $20 off your first month of RotoGrinders Premium, the link in the description of the video will take you there. You can also get 20% off your first month of Action Network Premium if you want to up your betting game. And the link to the DFO DFS Discord is there as well. Join the Discord. It's where the charts are posted. Good luck tonight. Hopefully you return with more money in your bankroll tomorrow than you had tonight. I'm Brock Seguin. Got Zach Laing here as well. Merry Christmas. We'll see you back here on Monday. Until then, cheers.
Cheers.